Alec, what's going on?
Oh, I'm just dandy. I'm really looking forward to talking about Survivor right now, which is 2 seasons ago. That was not my perspective.
Well,
um,
we're,
but
we're on a great track here. I mean,
yeah.
in case you don't know, I've been taking my friend Alec here on a journey through Survivor chronologically since the first season, and we've done reviews like this of every season. So, if you want, you can go back and check those out. And we've also done reactions and discussions for every episode since the beginning of Survivor Thailand, right? So we saw
hmm
it at the low, Thailand, and then we went up to Amazon, loved that, and Pearl Islands. What are your you want to give your starting thoughts here?
So I would say its highest highs uh, probably even surpassed Amazon. I would say some of the we've talked at length. We'll talk about it again here. But we've talked in some of our reactions. I'm not really the biggest fan of the twist. I think maybe it's unfair for me to judge because I'm thinking about it in too much of a metagame sense. The twist does work. The twist in terms of making it an interesting season. It definitely makes the it's you don't expect it. It's definitely a very like, ooh, wow, what a twist, because it's like, oh, these people that had been voted off, well, they get a second chance again. In fact, they get so much of a second chance that one of the people came in second place. But I'm not the biggest fan of that twist, because I think, and a lot of the contestants at the time were even saying like, is it really fair that these people who already get voted off, that they're back competing, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it is a one-time thing. I'll kind of like turn a blind eye to it. Be like, yeah, okay, it worked. It worked for the season.
Mm-hmm.
You get the redemption, maybe as like a ghost pirate. You could kind of look at it that way almost, or a maroon sailors coming back and taking
Yeah.
revenge on the crew that left them for dead.
They keel hauled
Um,
them.
they keel
Uh,
haul. There's a lot of keel hauling in this season in terms of challenges. I would say because of that, it kind of undercuts it a little bit for me in terms of like, do I think it's quite as good as Amazon? And I would say parts of it, yes, but I would say as a whole, just underneath it. And I think if that, I don't know if it's, you can't change it the way it is now. It came out in 2003, right? So
mm-hmm.
not didn't quite do it for me. The twist was just felt a little like didn't quite land with me. So, but regardless, this is such an adventurous, twisty, turny. Even given that without that twist, it was still a very complicated, like lots of conniving and people double crossing each other and people aligning with different people at different times. There was just a lot of stuff going on. Every episode, particularly in the second half, every episode was just like a stunner after another.
Oh yeah.
Um, that was all just interesting. The challenges were all pretty good. Very, very theme based. Gotta love that word puzzle though, am I right? Um,
Liaison.
liaison, and even
Forgot the
Jeff
I.
forgot the
Second
the
I.
second eye. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think yeah, I think a lot of the strategy. There was a lot of focus on strategy this season, which I thought was really nice. I know I had for a while I had Outback as my highest because of the emphasis on the survival aspect that was in that season, and I
Mm-hmm.
still do appreciate that a great deal. But that's not always going to be the focus of the season, particularly because when you have such a like a mind games season that this was, so much
Yeah.
so that someone lied about the grandma being dead. John,
And we've got a lot of ground to cover. We will get
yeah,
to season rankings, even though we can tell where you're ranking it now.
yeah.
But winner
I mean
ranking,
that might change, but I
we'll talk
doubt it.
about the winner and the winner ranking, and give out some Survivor superlatives.
Mhm.
And we're gonna go through the season as it played out a little bit, and talk about a little bit of Survivor trivia here and there, and also
Mm.
answer some questions. All right, so really getting
Looking,
into it.
looking forward to it.
By the way, I looked this up. Could be good to do from now on. It
Mhm.
was filmed from in June to July of 2003, and actually aired September to December of 2003. So
That's really impressive.
filmed and aired the same year. I was
That's
surprised with
really
that.
impressive. Yeah. I thought normally it was like a little bit more in advance than that.
I like, at least now, like I only know the modern Survivor schedule was
Mm.
always that, like they would be filming one season, uh, while like another one's airing, basically like they're all one whole rotation ahead. But I don't
Which
know how different it was back then, if this was a common thing to do or what.
Yeah, because that's just such, it seems like such a quick turnaround for editing
Yeah, it's a
to have
couple
that
months.
like yeah, that was they had to have started to edit and form the narrative and stuff like that during. I had to have done it during filming. I mean, they would have to do that during filming anyways. Really, coming up with that,
Hmm.
particularly as they start reviewing the footage and everything. But wow, that just seems like that must have been a busy time for those people. um,
But man,
so
they did a good job though.
they did,
There was
yeah.
some really nice, even just standalone episodes, like the Rupert
Hmm.
episode was really like a full arc in there. There's a lot of
Yeah.
good stuff.
Oh, that was like, was that the one I put a? There was one I put a gold star. I don't know if it was. I don't think it was that one. I should put a. There was one
There were a
I put a
bunch. I mean,
star on.
I think there might have been early on too. You had one.
Yeah, it was seven. It was, here it is. It was the one Trish got out. Get voted out on.
Okay.
I was like, gold star. I was like, this is an amazing episode. No, and it was like almost every single episode after that was the same. It was all to that quality.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Like the pre merge was not as good, I don't think, but there
Yeah,
was still some great moments there. Because they
great.
even had like Rupert early on pre merge
Mhm.
was like when he was at his best,
Yeah,
where he was out there like finding the spear that Sean had lost, the
yeah.
spearhead or whatever, and just
It was like
roaring into the ocean. That was
the
episode
suffering.
2.
It was the suffering of Morgan that was like a slog. I
Yeah,
was like, go. I remember you kept saying while we were watching it, go back to Drake, go back to Drake.
it's not a fun time over there.
No, it was not. They couldn't. They just could not get their act together ever.
Because not only was it not just a fun environment in camp, but they also were not as deceptive or like strategic about
Yeah,
it. Like they would
they were
just
just like,
openly know who
I'm
was going
going
to be
home.
voted out.
Yeah, it's got to be me. I'm going home. Yeah, it was like that. It was like,
We're just going to vote out whoever the weakest is, and each
yeah,
time it's kind of straightforward.
yeah,
So yeah, in the beginning, Nicole, Produce Ryan, and Lil are voted out
hmm
from Morgan back to back to back, and this is like a little piece of the trivia as well. Is this that's the record for most challenges won in a row, where Drake's won the first 6 challenges in a row,
yeah.
including reward challenges.
That's very impressive.
And they only
Honestly,
stopped when they decided to throw a challenge, which ultimately got Burton voted out, and
hmm
then Michelle, and then Trish, and then the numbers were even suddenly after
yeah,
winning 6 challenges in a row. And yeah, by the way, yeah, Lil and Burton voted out back to back.
yeah,
We won't see them.
yeah.
Like any other
Let's see them
season.
ever again.
Any
Yeah,
other season, we forget about them completely. It's like
yeah,
whatever, Lil and
yeah,
Burton, just a little footnote. But then
yeah.
they
Pretty much.
come back to have a big impact on the season.
Oh, huge. Yeah, their impact was like tremendous. Honestly, so yeah,
Because after that is when the Outcast twist comes out. Jeff brings them out, and they're their own little tribe, and they're gonna compete in a challenge against the other 2 tribes. If they beat one of them, one will come back in. If they beat both of them, 2 will come back in, and they'll vote in who's gonna come in. So they end up beating both of the other tribes, and Lil and Burton are voted in. It's like a vote of 3 to 3 to 2 to 2 to 1 to 1 or something.
yeah,
And yeah, we were talking about it at the time where it's like there's a losers bracket, but they didn't know there was a losers bracket, so it's kind of a bit of nonsense.
yeah,
And even you could see Sean was complaining about it at the reunion. He was like, "I wish I had a chance to come back," because he
yeah.
got voted out during the
Yeah,
double tribal that they had as a result of that. And then
yeah.
him
Didn't
and
get any chance to do that. Yeah,
well, Austin. We'll talk about Austin too, but him and Austin were part of that double tribal
yeah,
situation.
yeah, yeah,
And Burton and Lil came in. Could have been different also because they happened to come back into the same tribes. They drew the same tribes they were
yeah.
originally on. So Lil wasn't happy about that. You could tell from the beginning she wasn't
Yeah.
happy to go back with them.
Neither was anyone else on the tribe. Particularly Andrew was very upset.
And Andrew's gonna pay the price. He's gonna pay the iron
Yeah,
price for this one.
big time.
His past came back to haunt him
Hmm.
immediately, and Lil immediately jumped ship with Burton, who had reintegrated himself into the Drakes.
Hmm.
Lil went over with him, and then Andrew was toast.
Yeah.
And Andrew not happy about that twist at all.
Nope. Don't blame him.
So that's fair. It's
Yeah.
fair, but we talked about there are definitely things he could have done better. But is there like more levels of like you need to be able to adapt more? Like
Yeah.
the first cautionary tale was like when Sheehan and Survivor Thailand bought into the fake merge, which he
Yeah.
didn't have any reason not to buy into, but now it's like
Right.
a warning for the future. Now this will
Yeah,
be
now
another
it's
warning to
now everyone's gonna be looking for something to happen. There's gonna be some twist. So yeah, so no, I think contestants going in and trying to become this ultimate survivor, I think, are going to have to consider the twist of the season because they're gonna have to. There's been one every season basically. So
hmm
um
and
so
some are
yeah.
more or less extreme. Like the Amazon, I don't really like. They had the gender dynamic was the main thing. I don't think they had a big.
The twist was the choosing of the shuffling of the tribes at that one point. That was the
Right.
twist.
Yeah.
Um
So you always have to be ready to pivot.
mhm.
It's it's tough. Sometimes like Survivor does come down to a lot of luck at times. I
Yeah.
mean, coming down to the way your tribes are drawn to begin with. If you end up on the tribe. If Rupert ended up on the other tribe, maybe they're winning challenges in the
Yeah,
beginning.
because he was an absolute beast.
So
So
it's rough, and then you can be stuck in the miserable tribe, and it'll affect how you play the whole game.
yeah.
You don't get a chance to play. You're just miserable.
Yeah, do you
Maybe
think
Produce Ryan would have flourished with
yeah,
the
I was gonna be like
Drakes.
maybe Austin would have actually
Austin.
not given up if he
He
had
would have gotten much more food. Yeah,
got a lot more food, yeah.
because they were having all those rewards, and they were always talking about, oh, we're full. He came back from the reward and have all this fish that Rupert's bringing in,
Hmm.
and yeah, that could have changed a lot. So yeah, Austin was the first quit we've ever seen, which was
So
like almost was going to be a vote, but Jeff
yeah,
was like, "No, I won't even give you that. Let's just."
yeah. And at that point. And then what was I gonna say? Well, you could consider that Lil's losing of their hooks
Mhm.
additionally is what is one of the reasons why Austin gave up because he wasn't getting the amount of food that he should have for being as muscular as is, which gave him lethargy, absolute lethargy, which made him give up. Which I mean, I still don't agree with giving up. I still
Well, he gives 100% and everything he does until he can't. I forget what the
yeah, and
quote
if I
was.
can't do
If I
that, I
can't
give
do
up.
that, then I'm out.
It's like that doesn't make any sense to me at all
Mhm.
for like so because especially if you're like an athlete, it's like if you give 100% all the time, you last like 5 minutes
Mhm.
at whatever you're doing. Like if you're a sprinter, sure, that's what you need to be giving that. But if you play any other sport, you can't possibly give 100% all the time or else you're going to die.
If you're playing a game of starvation and
Yeah.
social maneuvering, you don't have to give 100% all the time either.
Yeah. Yeah.
From there, we had Ryan O voted out. That's probably
Rhino.
the least exciting vote out. The post merge, because
Hmm.
from then on out it goes into absolute chaos. Rupert is voted
Yeah.
out, and then all stability is lost. And we got
Hmm.
Tijuana, Krista, Burton, Dara, John voted out. I mean, we can go into more detail here, but there was just so much flipping, and a lot of it
Oh yeah.
from
Constantly.
Johnny Fairplay. Had a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah, he shook up the dynamics a lot to the point of like there were times where it could have gone a certain way, but just because he's made a suggestion or kind of changed his mind sort of after the after the immunity challenge, then he would be like, no, we should. He's like, if you would vote for me this way, you need to vote with me this way because we'll do this. And there was a lot of his maneuvering influenced the way people voted, because that's how Tijuana got voted out, because they were gonna sort of try to ally together against either John or Burton.
Yeah, and we thought that was going to be a big turning point where
Yeah.
Krista and Sandra both expressed regret afterwards, and we're like, oh, they might look back on this as like the moment that they lost it.
Yeah.
But they are able to band together after Krista's gone. The women are able to come together and vote out Burton, where Burton and John were so confident. The final five.
It was like feels
like
real bad.
I feel like there's a lot there that like the John Burton could have done something to definitely like pave the way to the end. Like I don't think it had to play out this way necessarily.
Yeah. Well, I felt like their biggest, probably it's weird to say this, but one of their biggest mistakes was going together on that reward challenge, because you left everyone who could band against you together.
Yeah, that one thing could change a lot. Like,
and I think it did.
If Burton takes Lil with him, like Lil's spending all that time with him, and like you're actually reassure her if she didn't go back on this whole final two, be wishy-washy about it. Reassure her that I'm with you to the end, and like
we're the outcasts. We're the outcasts. We stick together. Yeah,
that could have been huge.
Yeah,
we could be looking at a lot different end game here, but again, in the Amazon, Rob was in the driver's seat like 90% of the way. He was steering a lot of the flipping in the same way that Johnny Fairplay did, and they're both cut final three. Because they couldn't win the one. Both kind of had a balancing final immunity challenge. Like Rob's, the Amazon one was just like standing on a stick or like a thin platform or whatever, and this one was on a circular platform in the water. So there's a lot of parallels there.
Interesting. Yeah, they both fell in.
But then you have Lil and Sandra, final two. Sandra wins 6-1. Lil only walks away with Tijuana's vote.
Yeah.
Which is fair, like, that she does say Sandra basically gave her credit during the final tribal, where she was like, she voted every one of you off that's on the jury.
Yeah.
So it's like, interesting, how much do you value the way they play? Like, Lil was on the right side of pretty much every vote, right?
Yeah.
Sandra was on the wrong side of a lot of votes, but was just barely, like, holding in there and was under the radar enough, and was willing to play with whoever she could, and anybody but her. That was the strategy she was known for.
Right.
But it's like
which
Lil,
really
Lil was part of the dominant alliance and was on the right side of things. So you would think that would be impressive, you know. You would think on paper more impressive, but
but because a lot of it felt like coasting. And I think that was the point. That was the point. You could tell from the questions that they asked during that final tribal council that's how they all felt. That's kind of how they all felt. I mean, you were bringing her along, so I guess she had no reason not to. But
Yeah, and like Sandra, was she riding coattails, or what? But I mean, she was able to put together a good enough argument in the end that it worked out.
Yeah.
And there was the elephant in the room that Lil was voted out. And there is a perception of Lil just not being taken as seriously, and the whole Boy Scout uniform thing was a big thing. Sandra was able to play more freely, I think, just in general. All right, so I mean that's the season overall.
It is, yeah. It's it was just up and down and crazy. Like we did just explain it very simply, but like honestly, there were so many ups and downs, particularly especially in the latter half of the season. But I mean, like I will say it was a pretty big original wrinkle where they were like, no, we're going to purposefully throw. We're going to throw a challenge. Like that was kind of new. That there had been, I think there was talks that had sort of happened in an earlier season, but they didn't really make a big fuss about it. This time it was like a decided strategy. Like, no, we're going to throw this to get rid of somebody.
Yeah, and Burton wanted to throw it because he wanted
Yeah,
to get rid of like one of the weaker women, like Krista, I
yeah,
think at the time. But then he got voted out for it.
yeah.
And Rupert was heavily opposed to it.
hmm
and
Which I mean,
and then we saw how it played out
yeah,
to where it evened out the numbers, and only
yeah.
by the grace of Lil were they able to not have to go into a tie situation at the
hmm
merge. I want to give a little bit of trivia. There's not much, but then we'll go into superlatives, and then we'll go into the questions because there are a few
Okay,
of those that are interesting.
sounds good. Yeah,
Also, it was worth noting in the beginning that they did this fun little thing where the cast thought they were shooting their little cast photos, but no, the
right.
season's actually starting, and you only
Yeah,
have the clothes on your back.
yeah. It was like you have nothing but that. Here's some money. Go buy some stuff in the local town, and then you're on
Mm-hmm.
your own.
And
So
that
yeah,
was a fun little episode too. A
that was
fun
yeah.
premiere.
Honestly, that like as a first episode, that was awesome. That was like one of my favorite first episodes they've ever done because it's like they're not like having to we got to make camp first thing. It's like no, you guys are getting thrown completely just like here you go, swim
Mm-hmm.
to shore, and like grab supplies, and that's just such a fun, interesting dynamic that we don't really get very often in this
And you
show.
got
So
to
that
see a
was
lot of the personalities come out early on.
yeah,
So Sandra speaking Spanish, and she was
hmm
doing well out there. And then Austin was telling the women to like flash their boobies. Uh,
But then you had showing a little booty, Austin showing a little booty. But then you had Rupert being like, "I'm a pirate. We're gonna
stealing
I'm, like I
shoes,
gotta
yeah.
be a pirate." And he was stole stuff from the other team. Oh, it was so fun. Yeah,
Give me my money back.
give me my money back.
A lot of great moments there.
Yeah,
And yeah, they just really went all into the pirate theme here. They had the whole buried treasure thing where they had awfully sealed things
yeah. That
in
was
the
that was
treasure
disappointing.
chests.
That was pretty disappointing. Not gonna lie.
They had the kidnapping Rupert thing where the Morgans got to steal Rupert for a day.
Yeah, which kind of helped in
Which
some
helped them a lot.
aspects. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He had the outcast twist, obviously, was huge. He had the double tribal thing, which they hadn't done before, where both tribes went to tribal council.
Mm.
Uh, unfortunately, ended up with Austin quitting at one of them, so it wasn't as. And like Sean was the other vote. That was between Sean and Johnny, though. That's true. That could have been a whole different ball game there.
Very much. Very
They
much
had
so.
the first time that no one won immunity an immunity challenge because the jury won the epic
Yeah.
trivia challenge.
Which was weird. So
The first season to have tribes names derived from English, with Drake and Morgan,
yeah.
usually more into whatever culture of the island they're at.
hmm But no, we took
Pirates.
Francis Drake and wow, I can't remember Morgan.
What's his face?
Captain Morgan. I don't
Captain
remember his first
Morgan.
name.
Yes.
I mean, it is, but I don't remember. I don't remember the name. But both privateers. So sanctioned pirates by the respective governments. So.
And okay, and then we had the first Hispanic winner, Sandra.
Yeah,
So
that was
worth
pretty
noting.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Sandra also joins the club of having no votes cast against her all season, joining the likes of Ethan, Tim, Tina, and Brian. I think those are the only three that have received no votes. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Survivor Superlatives time, all right?
Okay.
Okay, so Survivor Superlatives is the segment of each Survivor review we do where we go through who's Alex's favorite player, who's Alex QD of the season, we kind of talked about it already, but who has the best intro shot, and then we'll do the rankings of the seasons and rankings of the winners.
Yes.
All right. So, who's your favorite player of the season, Alec?
I mean, come on. It's Rupert, obviously. I adore him. He's man, I just want to grab beer with that guy. Like he just is such a nice, kind person, but he has such a it's more than that though, because he has a very kind of intense personality at the same time. He's kind of an kind of like, I guess, what Austin was saying, except not really. He's very like all or nothing person, but he's so all the time that like
Yeah.
he just has a lot of energy. You can tell he's just generally a happy and sort of joyful person. And that's just so infectious because he just enjoys life, you know?
He brought so much to the show in terms of like, yeah, high energy, a lot
Hmm.
of entertainment, but also we see him deeply emotional,
Yeah.
angry. You see all these
Angry,
different
yeah.
emotions from him. He's talking about how he was the fat kid at school, getting bullied,
Yeah.
everything from that to being the epic provider, getting all
Yeah.
the fish.
You see him with that little snake, little Balboa.
And he does have a great voice, and
Yeah.
just like
He has that
laughing and
a nice gravelly voice.
roaring.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot there.
Yeah.
Any notable runner-ups or honorable mentions for your favorites?
I mean, I have to mention Johnny Fairplay. I mean, what a scoundrel, what a monster. He was the most fascinating person to watch. He was very like it reminded me of Boston Rob had Boston Rob been more cunning.
Mm-hmm.
Had he been more decisive and better at manipulating people, John knew that was kind of one of the problems with Boston Rob is that he wasn't as fluid. John he was able to pivot so well at whatever was thrown his way. There
Mm-hmm.
was times where it like seemed like he was going to get voted out, as we talked about, and he just found ways to manipulate it back into his favor, and
Yeah,
it
he
was very
was on the bottom of the totem pole, like before the
yeah
merge, and then he found his way at the top of the power
yeah
structure again.
yeah. It was amazing.
I think
Great player,
I think
absolutely
he's
fascinating to
clearly
watch.
I think he's most relatable to Rob Sesternino last
Yeah, oh
season.
yeah, even Rob Cisternino too. Yeah,
And I
for
think
sure.
I think some people commented that he did, like, he was inspired by Rob in a lot of ways. 'Cause I think
Mm,
he did see the season before he started
yeah,
playing. That was like the main player he looked up to, so it
yeah.
makes sense, you know.
Definite parallels. Yeah,
Yeah, Johnny's
yeah.
great. Uh, I also like Sandra as well, but
Yeah, I think Sandra's right up there as well. I after that was who I was kind of rooting for after Rupert got voted out. Because she was just very scrappy. Like we said, do whatever it takes, anything, anyone but me mentality, and it really worked super well for
mm-hmm.
her. Obviously, because she won. But she finally found a way to turn the tide against the guys, and it was just a really good, fun, decisive moment. Like I really like, man, she finally was able to do it. She's been trying like this whole season to no avail. Just can't find any like cracks in the armor, so to say. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So now move on to cutie of the season. Who's the cutest of them all?
I gotta give it to Krista. I think she's adorable, and yeah, big fan.
I actually really like Sandra. Um,
I think Sandra's
she's
cute
a cutie.
also. I think
Obviously,
Sandra's also cute.
Dara's there as well.
Dara is also there as
She's
well.
also there.
Who there was
Rupert in his little skirt.
Rupert is adorable. His little
Little
skirt.
cutie.
What
Sean would think.
there was someone else who was kind of like, oh, yeah, she's kind of cute.
Nicole, first one voted out.
Not
Michelle, iconic drinking decoy Michelle.
It was Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
It was Michelle. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to sometimes for the cutie
Yeah,
of the season award, you have to make an impact on the season as well.
Yeah, Michelle who didn't stick with the plan.
She did not.
Yeah, she's like,
It could have been her claim to fame there.
yeah,
She had actually
like,
been a drinking decoy.
yeah, but nope, not at all.
We
Nope.
talked about the best intro shots, Johnny Fairplay
Johnny Fairplay, without a doubt. Yeah,
with
him like shouting in
Yeah.
victory. Yeah,
and they
Yeah.
showed that at the end, I think, in the montage about when they're
Mm.
talking about Rupert
yeah,
and the trip down memory lane. All
Yeah.
right,
absolutely.
let's talk about the seasons.
Stunner.
All right, we both have our own lists of how we rank the season so far.
Mm-hmm.
Your ranking is the Amazon, Australian outback, Borneo, Marquesas, Africa, Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Pearl Islands going officially?
Number two.
Two.
Number two. This is a spectacular season. Like I said earlier, I think there are times where it even surpasses Amazon. It's just uneven. Amazon was, I'd say, it was evenly a nice steady rise, and then like kind of down a little bit at the end. And this one, to an extent, I would say it's like that at the end, just because it's sort of, once you see how the jury asks questions, you kind of understand exactly how it's going or how it's going to go, and then it kind of like, so that doesn't like come down, just sort of ramps up and then kind of just like plateaus, which is fine. I mean, honestly, your finale doesn't always have to be the most whiz bang amazing thing of all time, because if the season is stellar, then even if the ending is not as good, you have such an amazing season that like you can't really be disappointed in who wins. So though I guess it probably would have been kind of disappointing if Lil won, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think that honestly would be
that actually would
downer.
It'd be like a real like it would feel bad. It would be a feels kind of bad moment. Yeah, definitely would be sour. So
previously,
glad it didn't go that way.
Previously, I had the seasons ranked as the Amazon, Borneo, Marquesas, Australian Outback, Africa, Thailand. I think that Pearl Islands is better than the Amazon, honestly.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
Okay.
I just think the Amazon I had a lot of fun with, but I don't think I had this consistently, was enjoying each episode as much as I was with Pearl Islands. And I think the ending is still more satisfying than the Amazon. We had a better winner, in my opinion.
I'll give you that, yeah. I'll absolutely give you that, yeah.
My only thing now is maybe I would put Borneo back above the Amazon. I'm still unsure about that.
See, I'm actually thinking about reordering some of the stuff myself, looking back a little bit.
But I think I will do. I'll just keep it. I'll keep it for now. I'll just put Pearl Islands at the top.
Yeah, I'll keep mine for now as well.
I think that's right.
We can look at restructuring maybe next time.
So, all right, let's go into winners. So we're talking about who are the best winners. Not our favorite, not the cutest. All right. Previously, you had ranked Richard Hatch, Vesepia, Brian, Tina, Ethan, Jenna. Where does Sandra fall? It's interesting to think about.
It's around Vesepia. I'm going to say above. I'm going to say just below Richard Hatch.
Really? Number 2?
I think so. I think, it's really tough because I think her and Vesepia's games were fairly similar, because Vesepia was trying to turn the tables the whole time and just was not able to. But because she played so under the radar and didn't really do anything offensive or too underhanded, it was kind of it was a good game. Like she played a solid game. I think the reason I give Sandra sort of the edge is I think she was able to do that more successfully, and she wasn't really. I mean, she was under the radar in terms of like people weren't going to vote her out because we have more priorities. Like Sandra we can vote her out later. They had more priorities, so in that regard. But she was always very upfront and pretty. I mean, obviously she lied, but she was always very honest with her feelings about things. The fact that you can kind of project that and still be successful at the game, so you can offend people, but maybe not offend people to the point where they want to get rid of you, and be strategic, and be actually successful in your plan going through. I think that was, I mean, I think she just played such a solid Survivor game. I loved seeing the strategy in action and how it worked. Yeah.
See, I would agree that that Sandra is better than Vesepia, but I just disagree with your other rankings that you had. Even in going into this, like Brian, I feel like is solidly number 2 for me, just because he had control. I
think I just have some bias against Brian. I will amend that. I will actually give Brian that more credit than he has. I think I'll try to. I want to amend that. I'm gonna actually put Brian above Vesepia.
Okay. So Sandra above Brian. I just think objectively Brian's better, Brian's better because
No, I will. I will. I actually am going to agree with you. Even though I think the reason why I was doing that was just because Thailand was such a slog. But you have to. It's despite finding Brian the most one of the most aggravating champions I think that we've ever seen.
mhm.
Just because I am in control. I am human male who is in control. Um, yeah, I mean he had command of the game. Absolutely. I mean, you just without a doubt from almost from day one, honestly.
So he
Like,
wasn't. He never got votes, just like Sandra did, but he also
no,
controlled the. He steered the ship the whole time, and
yeah,
was that he had himself covered so well in the finale that even if he lost that challenge, everybody was going to take him to the end.
yeah,
So
yeah. He had himself covered in that regard, and like no one ever thought to like gang together up against him somehow. I don't know how he pulled the wool over their eyes in that way. It's still baffling to me. Um, that no one thought better of it.
so you're gonna go Richard Hatch, Brian, Sandra,
Yeah,
Vesepia, Tina,
I think
Ethan,
I'm gonna.
Jenna.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I still think Tina's better than Vesepia. I just think we kind of forget like Tina. She was very like under edited on the show. Like you didn't get much from her, but I think she was in a solid power alliance. She was in the dominant alliance the whole time. Like she didn't have to
yeah. It's
scrape by as
tough.
much.
It's tough because the sorry, I always forget his name. The person
Brian,
who, huh?
who
Was
from
it Ryan?
Australia?
No, yeah,
Colby.
Colby. Because I mean, yeah, like we said, we've said before, the story of the season is how Colby gave her
Mm-hmm.
the victory.
But that's
But
the biggest
that
piece
is
of
the
credit
story.
that
Yeah,
is given to Tina is that she was able to convince Colby to take her to the end instead of
yeah,
Keith, who was clearly going to lose against him in the
right,
end.
right.
So that's the only thing is I think
Yeah.
for me it's between Tina and Sandra there.
Hmm.
Sandra's definitely the more entertaining
Hmm.
winner, but
Yeah, I guess Tina. You could say Tina was sort of under edited in that kind of
so
season, but
my ranking would be Richard Hatch, Brian Heidick, Tina Wesson. I see I have the whole full names.
mm.
Sandra Diaz Twine, Vesepia Towery, Ethan Zahn, and Jenna Maraska. Yeah, that would be my order.
Jenna, who started playing the game around the second to last episode.
It's tough to Jenna.
Yeah, she's cutie of the season though. Absolutely,
Cutest
absolutely,
winner rankings.
absolutely gorgeous woman.
Number one
But
in the cutie winner cuties. I'll put Brian at the bottom of that list. Not as cute.
no,
All right, so let's get into some questions. We had some good questions.
okay,
All right. My question. Okay, this is a question from Chase Ferrier. All right.
all right.
If John had won the final immunity challenge and voted off Sandra and won the game, where does John rank as a winner through the first 7 seasons? And he's saying that
Oh,
I know it was said at the reunion about how they were saying like if John was there against Lil, who would have won or whatever, and people raised their hands saying they would vote for Lil. I think it was like 4 votes for Lil. But he's saying that apparently it came out, it's since come out, the production basically said that if you don't say Lil would have won, she's going to cry. That's what they told the cast. So,
really?
So they weren't forced to lie, but they were encouraged to lie when they
Okay.
raised their hand there.
Okay, okay.
Also, we were even saying then that it's easy to say that now, that you're going to vote for one person.
Because they've all seen the edited show also now.
And they've seen John as the villain that everybody hates.
Yeah.
So they're not going to openly say I would have voted for him. So.
Yeah, yeah. They're even if they are trying not to, they have been somewhat. They do have a shift in perspective now. In the moment of the vote, I think that's why it's so important the vote takes place then. That's why it's so important because that moment makes all the impact. Because I think some people have even come out like there was people at one of the previous reunions that said, "Yeah, I probably would vote a different way now."
Mm-hmm,
Like
yeah.
people have said that. Like so, it's so important and it's such a good thing that they vote then.
Yeah, so let's assume that John would have won against Lil.
I think he would have. Yeah.
where does John rank as the winner in these rankings we just did?
This is like, is he better than Richard Hatch? He's definitely a more devious villain than Richard Hatch.
It's so hard to do that
Yeah,
comparison with like Richard Hatch specifically because he's like he godfathered the game as we know
yeah,
it, and
yeah,
he was playing against people that weren't playing the game that he's created. So and
yeah.
then Johnny, you can make the argument he was playing against people that were harder to compete against because they were playing, but also Richard Hatch did it first.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I would have him like probably right just underneath Richard Hatch.
yeah,
He played such an interesting, fluid game. That was the thing. Yes, he did a lot of double crossing. He made probably some missteps, but he was so good at kind of weaseling his way out of whatever scenario that was at his feet. Basically, he had a way to get through it. Um, yeah.
and that's why how
So
crucial the final immunity challenge is because
it
we could
really
have
is.
the
It's
same
very big.
conversation about Rob and the Amazon. If he had
Mhm.
won the final immunity, voted out
Yeah.
Jenna, and theoretically he would have won against Matt.
Mm.
Then how does he rank? Probably around the same spot.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna sneeze.
Don't you hate that? Don't you hate those
I just-
teases? Those are the worst.
I talk myself down.
Yeah.
I talk the
You
sneezes off
talk
the ledge.
you talk yourself down in your head. Oh, where are these questions coming from, by the way? Did we
I
have
posted
this?
a video. I posted
Okay.
a video
I wasn't-
in the comments.
I wasn't sure if it was from the video or from Reddit or from where exactly.
They're all from the
so-
video. I linked it on Reddit, so a couple of these might have been from there.
Okay. Cool.
Also from Chase Ferrier, how do you think the season would have played out if the Outcast twist didn't happen? So then we go into the merge, even numbers, no Lil, no Burton. It would be probably some tie shenanigans, right?
Yeah. Austin probably would have. Well, Austin was already wanting to give up, right? But come into a new tribe, you've got food now for the first time, like actual food
Oh
for
yeah.
the first time.
Oh yeah. So in this hypothetical where there is no Outcast tribe, would we have played out 2 more additional rounds before the merge, probably? Where
Yeah,
Sean
maybe.
was voted out in the double tribal and Austin was part of that as well before the merge happened. So it might have, but let's just say it would have played out the same, even not knowing that 2 players are coming back into the game.
Yeah.
And so Austin and Sean aren't there.
Yeah. So that okay, yeah, that makes sense then. I don't know. I kind of think Rupert has more control of the game, I think. I think John would still be while that all did work to John's advantage, he was so good at playing fluidly. He would still be a powerful contender, I think.
He was able to capitalize so much on the Lil situation. It would have been interesting to see
Yeah,
what he would have done
that's-
there. Like,
yeah.
would he have been willing to go the tie, or would he have been the guy to be like, I'll flip on my tribe just to prevent tie shenanigans? Because
Yeah.
in the tie, I think it would have been like Marquesas, where you draw rocks,
Right. Or it's kind of a random.
and then it's whoever wasn't voted is eligible to be randomly rocked out of the game. So people like Johnny Fairplay are going to want to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
And if you don't have Lil served up on a silver platter, I don't know. It's really hard to predict what would happen there.
Yeah, that's really tough to say exactly how you do that. I think there would have still been a run-in with people being like, yeah, Rupert does have too much control. But I think it would have been, I don't know if it would have been as easy to overturn people if you didn't have these 2 new elements sort of in the mix of Outcasts that basically they were the key factors that John used to turn the tables and convince other people to join in with.
Rupert's the most well equipped to integrate with the other tribe
Yeah.
because he had that time with them and they really liked him.
Right.
But at the same time, everybody will acknowledge that he's a threat down the line anyway.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say.
Because also he have turned. He would have stuck
Yeah.
to with his tribe. He
He was
wanted.
stuck
He
with the
wanted.
tribe.
If he had his way, he would have voted out all of the Morgans,
He
one
would
by
have
one.
won. He probably would have continued winning strength-based immunities challenges. I
Mhm.
mean, almost single-handedly won stuff. People. He wasn't. I mean, he wasn't infallible. Like the outcast sort of thing. They didn't. There wasn't like. I guess there was some strength elements to that, but they weren't able to pull that one
But
off.
so much of the whole season would have been dependent on how that tie went. Assuming everybody
Yeah.
went to a tie,
Yeah.
what random side it went to and what favor it went.
Yeah. I think that would definitely.
Because the tie
Yeah.
could end up in the same thing happening hypothetically, where the Drakes still have the numbers and then are able to vote out one of the Morgans, and then all hell breaks loose when they vote out Rupert, and it's back to the same thing. Or it could tip the other way, and suddenly the Morgans have the numbers, and we have all the depressed people making it their way to the end.
Yeah.
Instead, we have Austin.
It is
final tribal. Austin wins. Really big turnaround for Austin.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of factors there that it's just very hard to predict. I think some of the same beats would still happen. I think you would have John wheeling and dealing his way into places. I think he was savvy enough to not do something too drastic that he would get the ire of everyone on his tribe, because he was able to do that. I mean, he did take advantage of the situation in that regard, but he was able to convince people to stick with him and vote for other people. I think he still would have been able to do that to some extent. But yeah, I think a lot of it does sort of depend on that tiebreaker. I agree.
All right, and Chase has one more question for us.
Okay.
Which of John's moves, voting out Burton, Rupert, T, Krista, or convincing them to vote out Sean and Dara instead of him, is in your opinion his best move? Which one? So, like, he was responsible largely for Burton getting voted out, Rupert, Tijuana, Krista, or was convincing them to vote out Sean pre-merge, or Dara final 4. Which one was his best move? I think Tijuana, because that was so crucial for him to even make it as far as he did. If Burton was gone there.
Yeah, they were planning on basically doing a coalition against him, more or less. I think I would agree with that. I think the argument could be made that the Rupert vote out was crucial, just in the sense that because Rupert did have a distinct amount of control over the game, and the fact that he was able to convince people pretty easily to go against him, that he was able to make a pretty compelling argument, being like, no, we need to get rid of him, because this group should go and go to be the final 5.
For sure.
And I think that was just such an important, because that was the setup for his continued events. I think the edge does go to that Tijuana one, because that would basically saved him. That did. It kept him and Burton in the game for longer.
Because Burton was literally gone. If John didn't say anything, he was gone there.
Yeah.
And then he had even more of an uphill battle than he ended up having at the end.
Yeah, and he used his grandmother's death as on the advantage there. So
yeah, that's when he was able to capitalize on it.
Yeah,
make that happen.
Yeah, because then the next episode, Krista was even saying, "We swear it on his grandmother's grave," you know. Yeah. So, like, I can't say anything against that. Yeah.
So we talked about this a little bit, but there's a question from Anime Lover 22 full. How do you feel about Sandra as a winner? I see people not meshing well with her gameplay due to its non-flashiness. What are your thoughts about her gameplay as a whole?
Yeah, it's definitely not flashy. I have a feeling that, like, if I was to ever be in a Survivor environment, I would try to play the game in a similar fashion. I don't have as good big brain skills, as much charisma as someone like a John or a Richard Hatch, or hell, even a Brian for that matter. I don't have the.
And if you're
I don't.
not that good, it's such a risky way to play the game, you know.
Yeah. So I think kind of the scrappy, put yourself out there, but don't make it so that you're in people's radars to vote on, and looking for ways to kind of get your way in there to sort of flip the tables, but don't do it in a way that's going to alarm everyone that like, oh, she's trying to like overturn everything. We gotta vote her out. Doing it in a way that's, I mean, there was that time where she like dumped all that fish out, right? And then, or or how she was going to start hiding things from from the rest of the tribe. So, and then she quickly changed her mind about that because it was like, oh, okay, I shouldn't do that because I don't remember. I can't remember. Like she was gonna start doing that, and then I can't remember exactly what had her change her mind. I think someone came and talked to her about it. I think, or talked to her about something. I think she was thinking she was on the way out. I think that was it.
Yeah, but then like the vote was gonna turn around.
Yeah.
So she was like, I don't want to mess things up now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she was actually gonna be safe.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I think Sandra is solid, like overall.
Yeah.
But it is definitely worth noting that she's on the outside of a lot of votes. And like, so a lot of the times where she's able to scrape by, it's out of her control almost. Like, it's just lucky that the other person is the one getting voted out and not her.
Yeah.
But like, you can position as much as you can position yourself to be under the radar and stuff like that. It also comes down to like the whims of the tribe at that point. She was out of the Rupert vote. She was out of Krista vote.
Yeah.
And a few other times too, but
yeah,
those were big points where it's like, it was a good thing that people wanted Krista out instead of her.
Yeah, it's true.
But she was able to be that kind of player that you can work with because she's willing to do that and she's not stuck in one thing or another. Anyone but her. So yeah, it's not flashy. At the same time, she is very direct and she was very confrontational from the beginning. She was, I can get loud too.
Yeah.
With John at like episode 3. So
yeah, she was. Yeah.
So it's crazy that kind of personality is considered under the radar player, but
yeah, where she was going head to head with the most strategic and masterminded involved person of the whole season.
But you can see the same about John, like how is he able to work his magic when he was picking fights with people, getting mad with people pre-emerge too, like Sean. But they both were able to work it out, you know. That's why it's like Survivor, as much as it is like human chess, it's really not, because there's so much else there so you can't even account for. But
yeah, for sure.
All right, Mike, another question from Yehoot S. My question is, how would both of you felt if either Lil or Burton would have won the game? Would you think that they're bad winners since they got voted out, or would their gameplay redeem it?
Yes.
Yes.
Burton would be a little offensive because I think he did a good job with the opportunity that was presented him. I still would be probably pretty salty because it's still like, again, we've talked about it. You know, the whole, they came in, they were voted out once, and yet they come back and win. Like, that does kind of leave a weird, bad taste in your mouth, kind of. Lil would have been just like why? Yeah, we would be having a very different conversation about this season. I think we would still be. I think I would still pump up the highs because that would be. But like the finale would just be like, I think I would rank her probably below Jenna even. Which would be wild to say.
I think by nature, of being voted out third, you should be at the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Burton, even if like he was more strategic than Jenna, I feel like he would still be below Jenna because he got voted out. Yeah,
because he got voted out once. Yeah, I agree. I just
because we talk about a lot how early pre-merge votes are a lot of it can be some nonsense reasons. Like you could be a good player, but just make one little stupid mistake and you're out, and you never got a chance to really play.
Yeah, like what's his face?
Peter,
who was just weird.
He was just weird.
He was just weird.
if you gave him a little more time, he could have been the Brian of that season. Ran things.
Yeah, he could have been the mastermind, the criminal mastermind that everyone knows and
So
loves.
it's like we talk about that. So you would think you wouldn't hold that much weight to being voted out early, but you're still being voted out. Tribe has spoken. You snuff the torch. You're out of here.
Yeah.
Right. That's just the raw deal of Survivor.
Yeah.
So
No, it is. It's just sort of the way the game is at that point.
If they came back and won, there would just always be that asterisk there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
So Burton would be a lot more palatable for sure, but still, you couldn't help but feel bad for whoever's next to him. That unless it was Lil.
Yeah.
Because it's like you didn't get voted out, and this other person got voted out and then came back and beat you.
To me, that would be like the same. That would be like the same feeling as the end of Thailand. I almost said Taiwan. I was like, no, it's Thailand. It would have been like the same feeling where it was like, this is like the worst finale pair I could think of. It just felt gross at the end, and that would just feel gross, but for a different reason. Just because it's like you people voted out. Like, what the hell? So
it'd be. I mean, yeah. That's basically it. All right, last one is from Ari Lewis, 2011. Right.
Oh, hey, Rusty, hey.
Which is kind of similar, along the same lines. If Fair Play and Burton were the final two and went to final tribal, put yourself in Burton's shoes. When Jeff asks you to make an opening statement to the jury, assuming you get to speak before Johnny, how would you structure your opening statement? Would you blame everything on Fair Play and say he was the sinister mastermind that voted the jury out? Take ownership that you plotted with him, or a different approach altogether?
That's a really good question. And the reason that I want to say that is because, like, yeah, how do you approach that? Because, like, yeah, most of the decisions were made between the two of them. How do you go about not pumping up John as the best player in this regard to pump up a vote, but try to make it? I think I would try to spin it in a way that, like, I don't know, like, you could do it in a way that, like, John, he promised all these things to everybody. I never promised anything to anyone. Because during the episodes where he's like, oh, I never promised that to Lil. And it's like, well, yeah, you didn't. But, I mean, there was kind of an unspoken agreement that you guys would kind of be a together thing. Because you did say towards the beginning that, like, we're going to stick together in this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So even though you never promised, yes, we'll be the last two, there was still like this, or I'll take you to the end. There was still kind of like an unspoken agreement between the two of them, which is why she had every reason to be like, so are you like having second thoughts? And he's just like, I don't think more than one vote ahead or whatever.
Two votes ahead. Yeah.
2 votes ahead. I was like, what are you talking about? There's like 5-6 people left. How can you not think about that? Yeah, I think I would try to spin it in that way, to be like, look, he promised you everything, but then he was only in it for himself the whole time. Yeah, he took me with him, and I played his game, but that was his fault for trusting me, you know, because I was conniving just as much as he. So you could take I would probably take the conniving angle and say it like, yes, I did that with him, but I never promised anyone anything. I wasn't intending to. I never deceived to the point of promising to take you someplace where I was never going to. I connived with him the whole time, but I was more honest in my deception. I almost feel like I would kind of go about it in a way like that. Mm-hmm. But it's so difficult to kind of like what kind of opening statement could you possibly make against somebody as charismatic and fluid as Johnny Fairplay?
And I mean, Burton vocalized that he wanted to do the good cop, bad cop thing. You know,
yeah.
He was hoping the jury would hold it against John.
Yeah.
But how do you say it?
How do you put that in a way that's like, yeah, you did a lot of the same. You went along with him with most of the stuff he did. So
I think his strategy in winning would be reliant on that, hoping that the jury would not respect how Johnny played, because I don't think you can go up there and say strategically I played better than Johnny Fairplay when
Yeah.
they were part of a lot of the same decisions. You have a lot of the same resume, except you were voted out. Johnny wasn't.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to use
that. You somehow sort of have to downplay the strategic element of his game and upplay the sort of the fact that you came from nothing and were able to come back and be such a successful contestant to become potentially become Survivor. But yeah, I don't know.
That would have been a really interesting final two, though.
That would have been very, very fascinating. I mean, I would have voted for John. Absolutely.
I would have too. I just have honestly no idea how the jury would have voted, though.
Yeah, that is actually a really good point.
We don't know how principled they are in our belief that if you're voted out, you're voted out.
Yeah.
You know, how much weight would they hold that?
Because I think that was definitely a factor in Lil. I think obviously there's we had the scouts thing and
because we didn't get to fully test that theory with Lil because Lil was already just not respected as much.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been interesting, like a Sandra versus Burton final two, to see.
Yeah, that would have been interesting too. Yeah,
because if you look on paper, Burton more strategic, on the steering a lot more of what's going on, but then he has been voted out. So would people have held that against them as much as I would have? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It is hard to say. Yeah, how much of a factor that would play in his thing. So yeah, it's a good question.
It is. It was a good
They're all good questions, honestly.
Great questions.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. That's it for Pearl Islands. For our questions.
All right.
All right. I am pleased to announce that next season is Survivor All Stars, baby.
Oh, so that's why they didn't. So that's why they didn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to do a bonus video after this, where
absolutely, I would love
for you to put together your dream All Stars cast.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm looking forward to that. So when they say All Stars, does that include winners as well as
anything goes?
Non-winners. Anything
All
goes.
I'm gonna say is for when you put your cast together, we'll do a separate video, but
yeah,
I'm just gonna say there will be 18 players instead of 16, which is what it's been so far, and half of them have to be men, half women. So those are the only stipulations. And for you, it won't be like who you think the cast is. It'll be who you would want as your
who I would want
all-star cast.
Well, Jenna has to be there because she's she's beautiful.
Well, we'll do a separate video for that. This is a long video already. All right. So thank you for joining us for this journey. It's been a great time.
Wonderful season.
Pearl
Wonderful
Islands.
Season.
Yeah, baby. All right. So, video.
Video. Yeah. What video? What video should they go watch after they finish this?
Go watch our review of Survivor Thailand, of course.
Yeah, our season review of Thailand.
Yes.
What a great season that one was.
But we love Brian, though. We love him.
No, I don't. But you are right in that he is our robot king, our robot overlord, Brian. Yeah.
Mr. Freeze. Okay. All right. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to our podcast feed. Like the video. Comment. Hit the notification bell and follow us on Twitter at Tarqaron TWO. So I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
For Survivor All Stars.
It's gonna be great.